stuff like that. And we've just known each other for a long time. And I moved a long ways away for a little while, but we still kept in touch, and you guys came and visited. And I can tell you guys right now that Jeremiah has a big, huge heart for people and for counseling. And this has been his passion for years. And Jeremiah, I'll let you introduce yourself as well. And
Sure.
You and I talked about that because you know what got you to where you are now in the way of counseling better than I do. So why don't you go ahead and do that?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jason. No, it's actually a real honor and privilege to be here for sure. A lot of fun. I know, for those who know us, we're the guys who would always occasionally go out for coffee, and and it's like, obviously, yeah, there you go. I'll have my water, you have your coffee. So
That's right.
you, as Jason knows, and other people who get to know me, you don't want me on coffee because I'm caffeine sensitive, and that's not a good thing. People can't concentrate and hear me talk because my eyes are dilating too much, right? It's not a good thing. So I've been, my background really is variety. It's a broad background. For over 25 years, I did a not-for-profit. That's everything. Working with children, working in brain injury, I even worked at the Mustard Seed for a period of time, working with homelessness. The last 5 years before I went solo as a private practice, I was working in the Forest Lawn area in a collaborative service delivery program with Children's Services.
Yep.
That, of course, meant, though, I'm working with multiple parents, single, married, not married, all sorts of different parenting structures. And that, of course, led to a whole bunch of different I'll just say counseling opportunities that were even broader than other ones that I dealt with before. Everything from various addictions to domestic violence to you name it. So that's kind of my brief background. About 9-10 months ago or so, I made a bit of a leap of faith, I call it, and just really, my heart was really kind of just felt led that I just needed to start a private practice. Some opportunities came by, and here I am doing private practice for New Life Counseling. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Yeah.
And that's awesome because I've, to a degree, been on this journey with you of wanting to get to where you are now.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And of course, it's not really a destination; it's just the start of another journey.
It really is.
Right. Yeah. But I'm really happy for you. I don't know if I have told you that. I think I have, but I'm very happy for you as well.
Thank you.
And like I said earlier in the broadcast, you definitely are. Or I said to you earlier, I said you're called and you're gifted and you have a talent for this. And so I'm glad that folks get to glean from that tonight. Of course, you and I talked. Nobody has all the answers, right?
No.
And sometimes when people are watching these things, they're just like hoping that they find out the meaning of life. Do you know what I mean? Like there's that degree of stuff.
Sure.
But we're going to bring some things up tonight that I really believe will help people. And so that being said, let's get into it here tonight. So we're talking tonight about how to deal with sudden change. And of course, I mean, how to deal with change, period. But we thought to use the word sudden change because let's admit that's how this came on all of us. I don't even want to use the word because we've seen it so much in the news and stuff, but this particular virus and this whole lockdown, shutdown, isolation, whatever you want to call it, this was very sudden. And of course it had to be, we understand that. But we want to give people some things tonight. Mostly we want to hear from Jeremiah, some things that can help people. And so I just have a prologue here that I'd like to read, help us get us going here. Everyone's life is a life of change. It's so true, isn't it? We experience changes in work and relationships, changes in our physical and mental health, and new events in our local communities, cities, and world, although we all have our own world that we live in. Many people spend a great deal of time and energy trying to avoid change, which I'm sure, Jeremiah, you have dealt with. I know that I have done that as well at times, but it's inevitable. Change catches up to all of us. However, we can learn to cope and change better and thus lower the risk of anxiety and depression. Our relationships can flourish and our body can feel healthier. But if we can't cope with change, only a minor amount of stress can make us feel overwhelmed by life. We might also struggle to set and meet the goals that we have for ourselves. The idea of coping with change is sometimes called resilience, which I'm sure Jeremiah will probably talk about tonight as well. Though your environment and personality type might influence your level of resilience, the amount isn't set in stone. In other words, we can develop more. Practicing different ways of thinking and being in the world can boost our ability to deal with change and help us build a life that adapts much quicker and more purposefully to new places and unexpected events. And so I've asked Jeremiah tonight to share with us 3 things that could help us to deal with sudden change. And I said to him earlier before we get on the broadcast here, not just deal with sudden change when it happens, but be prepared. Like you can't prepare for changes you don't know what the changes are, but you can be prepared for how you handle changes no matter what they are. And that's really what we want to help you guys with here tonight. And so Jeremiah, you were sharing a few things with me, and maybe you can share with us tonight. You actually call this system something as well. It's something that you've developed. Why don't you go ahead and start with that and share with us?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Really what we're talking about, is a couple different things. And I'm going to share, obviously we talked about earlier about what are kind of 3 basic things. And I'm going to, it's going to sound, and I'm going to be honest, you need to be ready. It's going to be so ridiculously simple.
Yeah.
But right now we kind of need simple, just basic strategies that can be utilized. And out of that, we're going to kind of break things down, and depending where the conversation leads, the ebbs and flows of our talk tonight, definitely we want to expand on that. So it's not just 3 things,
Right.
but and it's more focused specifically on, with the COVID-19, crisis and situation, whatever you want to call it, that we're in right now, Jason.
Yeah.
But really, before we even go to that, I love how you talk about that word change, because there's one thing that change has that we sometimes forget about, that is polar opposite, kind of like a magnet. You got your positive and negative side, right? There's always 2 sides to a different coin that we have to look at. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. Change is one of those things that's a very neutral word, Jason.
Yep.
It can be positive change, it can be negative change, right?
Exactly.
And so here's the one thing with change, okay, is that it's all the other side of the coin, as it were, of change, good or bad, is loss. So it's interesting when we talk about concepts like grief and loss, okay, when we talk about areas of trauma, areas of depression, anxiety, all those kind of areas, those are things that are all about dealing with loss. And that can be good or bad. Hey, I am so glad that the choices and changes that I've made in the last year within my life regarding business-wise. But I'll tell you, I did have a period of time going, did I make the right decision? There was a little bit of that loss,
Yeah,
there was a little
absolutely.
bit of that. Yeah. And, you would know as well, we've talked about this in the past, when you make, whether it's a business change, a geographical change, all of these different things, they're forms of loss. Now, of course, there's the big ones too, right? And we're seeing that as well with COVID-19. I've already come into contact with individuals who have actually significantly felt either loss due to COVID-19, or the fear of, hey, I've got a family member, they're in a situation, that they are surrounded, and again, I really got to give a shout out, it's very important. For all of those who are in the health capacity of
Absolutely.
working, nurses, doctors, all of that. I've got friends myself that are they're nurses, they're working. I've got one in particular, a close friend of mine. They work at Peter Lougheed. They're working through it, and they are there. And so they're having to work through all of that loss and the fear and all those different changes that are happening that are going on right now as we speak. So definitely, my heart goes out to everyone that way.
I like what you said there too, about it's not just being personally affected. Because when I brought up resilience there, just in the introduction, there are some personality types that are more resilient. I think most people will get this reference of Joel Osteen, but he gets made fun of because he's so happy all the time. And I'm sure most people, whether they're people of faith or not, have seen him somewhere on TV or something. But it actually is more his personality type. But in stuff that I've read, he has said, that he has to work on things as much as other people. But what I'm saying is, we're gonna have people during this that are going to be more resilient people. But I like what you said. They're going to have people in their lives that aren't as much. And so, it'd be awesome too with these things tonight if they can help other people with what they hear as well. So,
but what's interesting with that is because of social isolation, because of this new norm that we're all encountering and stuff like that, I'll tell you, I would say on average right now for Canada, at least 3 weeks of isolation that people either have had to impose or have developed and finally gone, no, I need to develop isolation, you know, those kind of concepts. There's still loss within that. And I'll tell you right now, I'm noticing, and I could be wrong, but I'm noticing the introverts, they are going crazy right now because it's like, I've got no one to physically touch. I've got no one to physically be with. You know, I want to just go out. I want to.
You mean extroverts? You said
or sorry,
introverts.
Did I say it? Extroverts? There you go.
Yeah, I think
Just
the introverts are.
I was testing you, Jason.
Yeah, there you go. I think the introverts are completely opposite. The introverts are like, this is heaven.
The introverts are 3 weeks away. All right. Because here's the thing. We're all wired for connection, Jason.
Absolutely.
I don't care if it's, you know, from your background, from pastoring, whether it's someone who's got different belief systems or ideologies. We are all, the one thing that's in common is we are all created for connection.
Absolutely.
And it's not a matter of if, but when the introverts will also be like, oh man, you know, that's kind of the different, you know, it's like, we've talked about this, you know, you remember that movie with Tom Hanks, he's on the island, Castaway or whatever. Yeah. And he's got Wilson, you know, I believe he was you know, from a character standpoint, he was a raging extrovert and he just needed someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Now, if it was more of the introvert side of things, chances are maybe give them another 3 months and they would have been then talking to Wilson. You know, you're right. It would be like a holiday for them. You know, those kind of situations, but
for sure.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I don't want to get off too topic. You know, one of the messages that I've been sharing with clients and everyone alike is really just sort of 3 primary themes, and we're going to break them down and stuff like that. And that is the first one. Well, it's out of that term of social isolation, but we can actually utilize this, and we have to utilize this in a healthy way, in a healthy boundary. All right, is another way that we can use that term. And that is create space. All right. But it's not just create space. All right. Being separate from each other, subdividing that into 2 different categories. There's creating space for ourselves individually. We still have to have our time. Yeah. Introvert or extrovert, ambivert, whatever you call it. We still need our own time. We still need our time. In your case, you need your time to have that time of prayer. You know, we all need that time for just reflection, you know, introspection. That's maybe a little easier for the introvert side, but we still need that time and space, because here's what's on the other side. And this is our family. Okay. These are our loved ones. These are the people that we live with, that we're with. Now that's a little different if you're single. Okay. And that's a different topic, you know, where we've got to figure out some creative solutions to create that connection. Okay. And we can talk about that as well as we go on in this session. But when we're in this situation, here's what happens. We have to also intentionally create space for family. So this is also an opportunity to spend intentional time with your mom, with your dad, if you're a child, for a parent to spend time with your daughter, with your son, okay, with your family, grandma, those kind of situations. What happens is the 2 get blurred together and those boundaries aren't put together. And what ends up happening is we have clash and conflict.
Yeah. Would you call that the cabin fever that we talk about?
Oh, absolutely. That's and we are seeing it. Yeah. I'm hearing already reports, and I think we are going to see those reports as we move along down the road. Yeah. I mean, if your relationship has already been in trouble, if it already has been on a little bit rocky and a little bit edgy, oh, you're in this part right here. And that's where we got to create space. So, hey, I'm overwhelmed. I need some space. I want to deal with this. Okay, we got to create some space. All right. And we can talk about that as far as some boundary you know, for relationships and stuff like that down the road. So keep that in the back of your mind there. So